Three of them. Okay, I call this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona to be held September 17th, 2013 at 6 p.m. at the Council Chambers Building, 826 North Main Street, Cottonwood, Arizona. I'll call the meeting to order. City Clerk, take the roll.
Councilmember Pratt.
Here.
Councilmember Dowling.
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Howergy.
Here.
Councilmember Garrison.
Present.
Vice Mayor Pfeiffer.
Here.
And Mayor Jones is absent. Madam
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to call our two school superintendents up to lead the pledge, Barbara Uran and Paul Ty.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now the next item is brief summary of current events by mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. City manager.
Madam Vice Mayor, council members, just a couple of items. Just a reminder to everybody that Thunder Valley rallies this weekend, so we'll have a lot of visitors on motorcycle in town, so be careful while you're out there driving around. The Verde Valley Youth Commission is doing a harvest festival on October 5th and at the Moose Lodge. And for those of you who are fans of J.A. Jantz, the mystery writer, she'll be here in Cottonwood on September 23rd at the Rec Center signing books. Also this weekend is a recovery celebration, a substance abuse recovery celebration at Garrison Park, and that'll be on Saturday. And just to let the council know, we have begun installation of our new really, it's more than accounting software from Springbrook, and that'll be in process for the next several months. And that's it, Madam Vice Mayor.
Council. Mr. Pratt.
Speaking of recovery, I made a presentation this morning to a group of folks at a new recovery house in Cottonwood. There's a young couple that's owned a house, and they're being very proactive, working with people who had fighting addictions, and they're just doing a terrific job, and said they hope the city appreciated that, and I said, I'm sure we do. And it was an interesting presentation.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to introduction of new employees. Chief Kirkendall, you want to introduce our new firefighter?
Madam Vice Mayor, Council, it's my pleasure tonight to introduce our newest firefighter with the Cottonwood Fire Department, John Westbrock. John grew up in Apache Junction. He's attended Northern Arizona University at Coconino Community College working on his fire science degree. He comes to us from the Flagstaff area, where he spent 10 years in the fire service with the Summit Fire District. Started as a volunteer, worked up through the ranks, spent the last 4 years as a captain with Summit Fire District, and comes to work for us. He has a background especially heavy in the area of public education, which is one of the things that we are excited about having him on board to help us, and as we continue to put a lot of emphasis on public education, certainly in our schools and such. He's a paramedic. He worked for Guardian Medical Transport also part-time, and at Verde Valley Medical Center he's worked as an ER tech. He moved to about a year ago to Cottonwood here with his 2.5-year-old daughter and his wife, Gretchen, who's in the audience tonight. She works as the Gear Up coordinator, I believe at the schools. Is that correct, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And, well, here's John.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity and the job that Chief allowed me to have, and I look forward to serving this community at the highest level that I possibly can. And thank you very much for being so welcome. This community has welcomed my family in with open arms, and it's a very fantastic community to be a part of. Thank you.
John, have they told you all about the open house next month? Are you in charge of that? Are you here just in time to take over?
He's not in charge, but we'll make him do something.
Welcome to Cottonwood.
I've been doing a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6. I've got a couple proclamations, and I believe there's someone here from the Guard to receive these. Is there someone here from the National Guard? Oh, there you are. Okay. All righty. First one. Whereas National Guard and Reserve Forces comprise nearly half of our nation's military strength and are essential to America's national security, Reserve component forces stand ready to answer the call to serve, whether serving alongside active duty counterparts all across the globe or responding to humanitarian crises at home and abroad. And whereas employers provide critical support to members of the National Guard and Reserve, allowing citizen warriors to serve whenever the nation calls, often foregoing financial gain and making sacrifices in the process. And whereas employer support is stronger than ever, more than 41 years after President Richard Nixon authorized the Secretary of Defense to establish a National Committee for Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, ESGR. And whereas our nation is in debt to the citizen warriors departing the comforts of home to ensure our freedoms remain intact. Likewise, America pays special tribute to the commitment of dedicated and supportive employers who continue to make service in the reserve components possible. And whereas, now I, Karen Pfeiffer, Vice Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, for Mayor Diane Jones, Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim September 22nd through September 28th, 2013 as National Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Week. In witness thereof, I have hereto set my hand on the 26th day of September 2013. Congratulations. You want to say a few things?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Luke Sefton. One of the hats that I probably get to wear, not only in this city but around the state, is ESGR. But I would like to introduce our new Northern Arizona Chair, Darren Venners, and let him introduce ESGR and say a few words.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor and Councilman. We certainly appreciate your support and all the town of Cottonwood has done to support the men and women that go into harm's way in the protection of this great country. It's often missed in the evening news. When you see the news, you'd think that a half of America is involved some way in the military. But you know, we have a nation of nearly 340 million today, and less than 1% are involved in the military. We have about 3.5 million, and half of those are citizens, soldiers, airmen, and likewise that are here, that you share your employees with the rest of the country for us. ESGR is about developing relationships with the community, with the business community, to facilitate that. And one of the things that we do and have available to you or any members of the community is we do provide training to employers on the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act. So if any of you ever have a need or want to talk about those, let us know. You can reach us on the web at esgr.mil, and we're very happy to provide those services to you.
Thank you. My son just graduated from Sergeant Majors.
Oh, well, congratulations.
That's very good. Congratulations.
Well,
Thank you so much for your service.
Maybe.
That's okay, I'm used to it. They have these long lenses. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again. Congratulations. And thank you again for your service.
Okay, the next proclamation is for Recovery Month. Whereas, on behalf of the citizens of Cottonwood, I am pleased to join the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the Northern Arizona Regional Behavioral Health Authority, and local mental health professionals and peers in celebrating September 2013 as Recovery Month in our community. And whereas mental health and substance abuse disorders affect millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and result in significant medical, social, and economic cost. And whereas acknowledging September 2013 as Recovery Month offers advocates of mental health and substance abuse prevention, treatment, and recovery the opportunity to help our citizens reflect on ways to prevent mental health crisis, the existence of effective treatment alternatives, and the celebratory fact that people can and do recover. Whereas thousands of behavioral health care providers and peers have dedicated their lives to educating the public and policymakers about prevention, treatment, and recovery. Now, therefore, I, Diane Jones, Karen Pfeiffer for Diane Jones, Mayor of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim September 2013 as Recovery Month in the city of Cottonwood and encourage all citizens to support this year's theme, Join the Voices of Recovery. It's worth it. By supporting men, women, and youth who have chosen the courageous path of recovery from mental health and substance abuse disorders, dated the 17th day of September 2013. And Lori Vadir is here to accept this proclamation. Do you have a few words you want to say?
I just want to, on behalf of the Verde Valley Guidance Clinic, thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. There is a lot of mental health and substance use, as you pointed out in your proclamation. The National Alliance for the Mentally Ill states that about 1 in 5 individuals in our country have a mental health issue in a given year, and 5 to 7% of them have a serious mental illness, such as bipolar disorder, PTSD, schizophrenia. But as you indicated, recovery is real. Recovery does happen, and it's through the support and knowledge of community members. So thank you.
Thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay. Presentations is next. Presentation regarding the Cottonwood, Oak Creek, and Mingus Union High School District's continuation of the 10% budget override election. Barbara Uran and Mr. Ty, our superintendents for Cottonwood, Oak Creek, and Mingus.
Thank you very much. I'm Barbara Uran, Superintendent of the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District.
And good evening. I'm Paul Ty, Superintendent of the Mingus Union High School District.
And we really want to thank all of you for allowing us this opportunity to share the facts about the continuation of the overrides that both districts will be going out to our voters with this year. Before we start, we're just going to quickly hand each of you one of these fact sheets so you can take that home and learn more about some of those details we might miss tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oftentimes there's a confusion over what an override is for a school district. An override is a mechanism allowing districts to ask the community to exceed the base funding of what they have. That's the maintenance and operation budget. Our maintenance and operation budget is set by the state of Arizona on a per pupil allocation. We cannot exceed that budget. That budget, 85% to 90% of that takes care of salaries and benefits for our employees, leaving very little left for the other things that it takes to educate a child. It allows a district to go out to their community for a 15% override. They can go up to 15%. Our governing boards met the two boards together, Mingus Union High School District and Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, and they made the determination that at this time it was appropriate to ask for a 10% continuation, what we currently have now, rather than asking for 15%, understanding that the community is still, in a sense, getting their feet back under them and getting strong again financially. So the two boards agreed to continue and ask for a 10% override budget for the school districts. An override is good for 7 years. That override will start decreasing after 5 years by a third, a third, and a third. So the 7th year, there would be no funding left. Dr. Ty is going to talk a little bit about the financial side of what school districts and Mingus and Cottonwood Oak Creek School District have gone through lately.
We've afforded some really good support from the community over the years. Mingus's override was first voted in by the voters in 1985. Cottonwood Oak Creek's was 93. So they've been around for a while and we've had great support. So it's not a new tax, it's just a continuation of the permission to override our state set limit on spending. There's some statistics I want to share that are in those pamphlets too. But some information you may or may not be aware of. Unfortunately, Arizona has been a leader in the nation in cuts to education. So over the last 5 or 6 years, that's been at the top or near the top of the nation, and about 22%. So we started calculating what did that mean to us locally. And so both of our business managers who happen to be here, David Schneider for Cottonwood Oak Creek and Kirk Waddle, did a little number crunching, and they came up with some kind of staggering amounts. For Cottonwood Oak Creek, that was almost $6 million over the last 5 years. For Mingus, that was over $3 million. And proportionally, that's $3 million for us on a $7 million annual budget. So they've been quite extensive. And as Mr. N noted, most of our money is salary and benefits, 85 to 90%, and all of the other operational costs come out of the rest, and it doesn't leave a lot for our schools to operate. So we've certainly been doing more with less. The ranking, there's been several studies on ranking and spending on education. So by both measures, both on revenue and spending per student, Arizona has come up at 48th most recently. And both measures were almost identical in the percentage of the national average. So we're under 74%, about 73.6% of the national average, both in spending per kid and in revenue. And it's interesting, we saw a statistic last week that it hasn't always been that way. Back in 1970, Arizona was what, 27th, 29th. So we were closer to the middle of the pack a number of years ago, and there's been a steady decline since then, which is unfortunate. The state funding is primarily aimed at covering core programs. So, math, reading, science, and social studies, and a lot of the other things that we consider part of a comprehensive education are not really considered essential to education. So things like elective courses, fine arts, athletics, interventions for students with extra needs, many of the things that Mr. Uren is going to elaborate on that are part of both of our overrides. One other statistic I want to share is, well, what does that mean? The current average for the tax is about $550 per household with a household value of a $100,000 household. And that's both districts combined. It's about $350 for Cottonwood Oak Creek and about $2 for Mingus. So we'd like to say it's like maybe a couple of cups of coffee a month. And again, it's not a new tax, it's what we've already been paying. So Mr. Uren will elaborate a little bit more on what the overrides cover for us.
That's always the fun part, because the programs that are supported by the overrides at both schools are very similar. They're the arts, music, fine arts, drama. They're technology and preparing children for the 21st century, the digital age. So a lot of technology comes with that. They're alternative programs. So Cottonwood Oak Creek School District actually has 3 alternative programs to meet the needs of kids who may have some behavioral things that they're dealing with at the time, try to get them back into the regular classroom. And for some of our children in the junior high level that may have had some issues that we can't keep them in the general classroom for a period of time. So those alternative programs we help support those through our override. Interventions for children is another thing that we provide for our students that are struggling. That comes from our override fundings as well. Smaller class sizes, maintaining that size so that teachers can have that one-on-one time with children and not be overwhelmed by extremely large class sizes. And we're very proud of both districts in trying to keep those class sizes down for our teachers and for the benefit of students. I want to talk just a little bit about the arts and the music and drama. Sometimes people wonder, well, why do you have to have that? The research is very, very clear that in the arts, in the music, in the drama, in the fine arts, those are things that actually help statistically show improvement for achievement for students. Mathematically, language, processing language, all of those things do assist children in their IQ and in their academic achievement, in their motivation, in keeping them engaged. It's oftentimes we find that at some of these programs that students really hooks them and keeps them into our schools and wanting to be there. So we're very proud of those programs that we're able to offer. One of the things that we know as a fact, without the override, these programs would have to be reduced or eliminated. We would possibly see class sizes increase. Both of us try very hard to keep things from affecting the classroom, the student level. So we continue to review everything that we're trying to do to create greater efficiencies between the two districts. We're now sharing some of those positions. I'll let Paul talk about that a little bit. So the districts are continuing to look for every single way we can to increase those efficiencies while not affecting programs for students.
So in terms of dollars, how much money does the override provide our districts? Might be a question you might have. For Cottonwood Oak Creek, it's almost $1 million annually, and for Mingus, it's about $600,000 annually. So it's a significant amount of our budgets. And you know, some of the things that Ms. Shuren talked about are things we've worked really hard to preserve. Doing more with less. Some of the challenges we're facing, even with the override, has been our ability to buy things. And so, you know, capital funding, such as furnishings, textbooks, technology. So we still have many challenges even with the override. School buses, the list goes on. But these are items that are not part of that base level funding that we've been referencing.
It's real important to know that override dollars, they do not go into administration. They are purely student programs. Purely student programs.
So what can you do? What are we asking? Well, we're only permitted to share factual information, to encourage you to register to vote. If you're not registered, you can still do so by October 7th and be part of this election. It is an all-mail ballot, so the county will be mailing them out on October 14th. So you should, in the middle of October, be receiving your ballot, and they're due November 6th. And we want to encourage you to vote. And certainly, if you haven't registered, please do so. We can help you with that. And we want to educate you, answer any questions we can, as well as you know, we're willing to come to other organizations that you know of that might want some factual information.
I'm assuming you're all registered to vote.
We better be.
Yes, I am.
Can we answer any questions for you?
I just wanted to be clear on how much was the override tax per household per year?
It's about $550 a month for a $100,000 house for both districts combined. So about $350 on the Cottonwood Oak Creek side, about $2 on the Mingus side.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anyone in the audience have any questions of them? Mr. Pratt has a question.
I just have a comment. I appreciate that you folks are putting in the extra time to do this because you really care about educating our children. As an educator myself, I inherit a lot of your children. And I would like to just reinforce what Barb Uren said about the arts. I personally know kids who have gotten through high school because of the arts. It gives them a place to belong, kids who are, say, can't play football. So yeah, I just appreciate the work you're doing, and I support you totally.
Thank you.
Any other, Ms. Wicks?
And we'd like to invite Ms. Ruth Wicks to come on
She's
up.
not going to wait for
She knows it.
They can't arm twist.
She's amazing. Do you know her?
I'm with a group called Partners in Education. It's a political action group. We've been around since the 90s. We keep having to go back to the voters every 5
Excuse me, Ruth. You're supposed to face the TV camera.
The camera. Oh, I'm sorry. My voice is so loud. Did you get all those recording of my voice? Okay, good. So this is like preaching to the choir. Cottonwood, Clarkdale, Jerome have always been very, very supportive of education. And so we're here again to ask you to continue that support. It's not any extra taxes, it's a continuation of the taxes that you're paying now. And obviously you can see the quality of education that we're giving these students through our representation by these two fine, good-looking young people. And so what are things that we're asking maybe the people in this room to do? I have flyers, and I'm going to leave some here so you can pick one up if you would like one later on. But a lot of us live near people that are older, sort of like me, and they get a lot of mail, and they put the mail off to the side, and they forget. Probably some people in this room are like that. I would encourage you to make sure that your friends understand what this is, the value of a vote is. I think the last time it was very close, so every vote counts. So don't think, oh, it doesn't really matter, I won't drop it in the mail. Often, too, people get confused by how to put the ballot in the envelope and sign it and close it up. So those are all really practical things that everybody in this room could do, of course, besides voting yourself. And we all appreciate all your efforts for our community. I know people don't thank you for serving in this capacity. We're very proud of all of you, and we enjoy you on television in the evening. It's quite nice.
For the record, we need your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Ruth Wicks. I'm a retired educator. I live in Clarkdale.
And how long were you an educator?
Well, I've been an educator a long time.
She doesn't have that many fingers.
She was a counselor to
about
my
40
kids.
years, and I've had the honor of working with several of you up here and several people's children, and it's always been a pleasure. We have a wonderful community here, and all of you are a large part of it. Question? Yes, ma'am.
Have the ballots been mailed yet?
They will be mailed by the middle of September. I think September.
October 14th.
I'm sorry, October. Good question. Thank you very much. Any others? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you to superintendents also. Okay, the next presentation is by Sedona Recycles regarding the services it provides in the Verde Valley.
I got in trouble for asking him this one.
Well, I wanted to say before they left the door, but went out the door, but I have arts and music to thank for getting through school too.
Can you give us your name also?
I apologize. My name is Alex Rovang, and I work with Sedona Recycles.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pfeiffer and council members for having me here this evening. I wanted to come in tonight and just, I guess I felt like I wanted to reintroduce Sedona Recycles to you guys, to the community, to Cottonwood. I was watching the council meeting on July the 2nd and realized that, you know, we just haven't been doing enough outreach in Cottonwood, and I feel responsible for that. I'm the director of education and community outreach. It's my job. I don't know if you guys were able to see my Q&A packet ahead of time. I emailed everyone, and then it should have been included in the packet. But what I've come to you guys tonight to basically appeal to you is that I'd like council in the city to see us through new eyes. In the past, we've been operating in Cottonwood since the year 2000, and over the last 13 years, our relationship has been basically a business relationship. You know, a client and a service provider. And the fact is, we're a nonprofit. And I think that that's lost on a lot of people because what we're doing is we're providing a service, we're taking materials, we're selling it for money for our programs, but we're a 501c3. We're an educational nonprofit. And what we provide the community is education in all manners of waste reduction, not necessarily recyclables. People call me about green waste and I give them 45 minutes of a composting lecture to get them to compost at home. Sedona Recycles is more than just a recycling company. It's so much more than that. We have roots in every community within the Verde Valley, and even do some work up in Flagstaff from time to time to do education up there. And we have educational outreach that's global because of what we do with social media, our websites, website, not plural, singular. And we've actually, a cool story, we had a guy from Argentina come up, and he was just on vacation, and he saw recycling center when he was driving down 89A and came to take a tour, and he himself had a nonprofit recycling company in Argentina, and we were able to talk it out, and I was able to tell him about programs that could help him to recycle more things that they weren't already recycling. Because that's what we do, we're always trying to push forward a really heavy boulder. It sometimes feels insurmountable to do this kind of work because we have to do so much, or else we'll get left behind as far as what the potential future that we might have. And just being conscientious means so much, let alone to actually actively be the change, actively try to be a positive force in your community and on a macro level, the planet. We're a nonprofit. We're the same as the Humane Society, the library, Habitat, the Mission. We're just another one of your nonprofits here in town. I just wanted to introduce that, and also, to open it up, if there were any questions that you guys had as far as, from the Q&A that I sent you, or questions in general, I'm just happy to answer.
I got a question, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you folks doing any work in the school with our young people at all to educate them about the importance of recycling? And
as much as I can. The most recent Cottonwood school that I was at the Head Start.
Okay.
And I was working with Troy over there, and next week I'm going to be at the Camp Verde High School. It's tough though because schools are so taxed that it's really difficult to get in, find a place in the curriculum that can incorporate what I'm trying to educate with stuff that's going to be on their tests. And so it's a tricky thing right now because, everyone's budget is tight, and time is a commodity. And so it's difficult to get in, but I get in anytime I can. And I'm always trying to bug people to let me in more often.
Council, Mr.
But where else in Cottonwood are you involved?
As far as
just where you have, outreach and where you have facilities.
Well, we have our drop-off sites. We have 5 drop-off sites here in Cottonwood. On a daily basis, I answer at least one phone call from a Cottonwood resident. So that's sort of like the localized outreach that I do on a regular basis. I'm trying to think of any local civic, the Rotary. That was I think my most recent meeting was with the Rotary. So, anyone that'll have me. Like yesterday I was at the Retired Teachers Association, the Kachina Retired Teachers Association up in Sedona.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone that'll have me, as much as I can get out and talk, I'm windy. Try to keep it brief sometimes.
Any other questions? Have you seen the Recycle Man at Mountain View Preparatory? They've got a little statue that's made strictly out of recycled materials. You need to pop into their gym or go to the office. They won't let you in without it. You need a guest pass, but they've got a Recycle Man. I think he's taller than me, so he's got to be at least 5 feet.
This was previously Tavasi, correct?
Right.
I remember, that's been there a number of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really neat to look at.
Yeah, I gave a presentation there a couple of years ago, and they had them.
Yeah, they're working with the children there, I'm sure.
I love the incorporation of recycling and art. Sends a good message.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you know, but American Spirit, which is a cigarette company, has an incredible recycling program.
I'm aware.
You're aware of that?
Yeah, they make ashtrays out of cigarette butts.
Yeah, and they make
Pretty incredible.
a lot. They yard furniture, the things that are made out of not only the cigarette butts, the paper, the foil, the cellophane, the box,
Exactly.
I spend all my time in this chair going around town picking up bags and bags and bags of
bless your heart.
cigarettes that you can go to AmericanSpirit.com. They'll send you packing slips. You can find 12 pounds of butts, and I've tried. It's a lot of butts.
That sounds like a lot of butts.
I send boxes in. People are very accustomed to this thing.
Well, and you're right, and littering is...
Now don't even, an ashtray is an option.
Yeah.
But, and I don't expect anybody else to do this. I have nothing to do, so for me it's easy. I go first to the guidance party because it's the biggest mess and they have coffee cans and I just dump coffee cans in bags and haul cigarette butts around.
Well, that was actually the program that one of the programs I recommended, the man from Argentina, because he has the recycling program and they have ways to recycle a lot of different materials.
Yeah, incredible.
But what they end up with most of is all the cigarette butts that people just put in the sand, and so their sand comber comes through and...
I didn't bring it because that's not why I'm here. I have a brochure at home that
I have the same.
You have that?
Yeah.
Can y'all maybe carry on your conversation after the meeting?
we can talk more about it later.
Yeah.
Well, and please call and we can talk more about it. No, I work for Sedona Recycles. It's the nonprofit. She's Verde Earthworks.
Okay, moving on.
And just to go forward, we're not planning on taking cigarette butts anytime soon, or diapers or anything. But there are recycling programs for all manner of things. Obviously we're not going to be trying too hard to be taking those right off the bat, but right now, and we have special collections in our lobby that include electronics. We're always taking electronics when we're open. Anything with a plug, batteries, whatever. We're always taking electronics. We're always taking batteries. We have to ask for $1 per pound for batteries because the program costs us money. So we ask people to donate, and it's all suggested donation. I had a person today that gave twice what he was supposed to for a television, and I had another person today that couldn't afford a television. It evens out. It's the honor system. We take styrofoam. We're the only recycling center in the greater Southwest available to the public. You can bring your styrofoam, and we have a densifier. It's our most valuable plastic. So, there's a way to do just about anything, and the reality is that us as recyclers, we're really diverters. Nothing's getting recycled till it actually gets to the mill and turned into a new product. So we're the stopgap. We're the way that you can, the more programs that we develop, the more that we develop as diverters, we'll then be able to get more things recycled and thusly have a greater impact on the environment.
Great. Well, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate what you folks are doing in the community. I do hope the community will support you. And about 2 months ago, I did go and do a tour of their facility, and was pretty impressed with everything they're doing.
Yeah,
So
thank you for
keep it
coming.
up, Alex. You guys are doing great work.
Yeah, and that offer still stands for all of you.
Thank you.
Any of you like to come up and take a tour of the facility, anytime we're open, you know, just call ahead and say, hey, I'm on my way to make sure, so I can make sure I'm there. But yeah, we can do a walkthrough, and it's pretty fascinating. It's pretty incredible what we can do with a quarter acre of land.
Yeah, I was
Thank you
impressed.
very much.
So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Next on the agenda, number 8, call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. ARS 38-431.02H. Comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. And I've got some yellow slips here on call to the public. First one would be Sandrea Bradley.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time before your council, and I'm acting on the assumption that all of you are aware of the smart meters. But just in case you aren't, because I found I couldn't even ask any questions here, I just wanted to say that, okay, what are smart meters? They're $500 digital meters here to replace our existing $50 analog meters that record our electrical uses. Now, that's what they say it's for. The rabbit hole goes very deep. It is not just for recording our electrical uses, but I want to stay with the health aspect of it. Because what's wrong with the smart meters? The radiation from these meters are astronomical. I was online and I did research, and there were some that are up as high as 70,000.10 milliwatts, whereas 13.8 milliwatts is normal. Okay, but these don't work alone. They work with a network of routers and towers, and I have a handout for you. So, the radiation from these meters are also causing health issues. And I have friends that are living in California, and it's very sad. And most of my friends are my age, and we are really affected as well as children with these meters. There are some people that are actually living in their cars because they cannot live with these pulsing meters that are going on umpteen times a day. Now, there's so many aspects to these meters, even beyond the health, that my recommendation is to go on YouTube and just key in smart meters, smart meter dangers. I mean, this is for yourselves first, yourselves, your loved ones, your families, and then I trust you will do like everyone else I have known, that I have been able to get them ignited enough to research. They have opted out for the meters. And once you guys do that for yourself, you're going to want to do it for all of us, for the community. That's my feeling. So I just want to encourage people to go to Sedona's smartmeterawareness.com. They've got a lot of information there. And they have a movie called Take Your Power Back. Highly recommend that. And there's many of us that are willing to loan you that to see it. And how am I doing? Good. So what I want to say is this, that there are many areas of the smart meters that are horrible and deplorable. And I'm just barely touching on the area of our health, but there's many other sides to this. But if you go and educate yourself, you're going to discover what I myself discovered. And I'm telling you, it's the first time in my entire life ever going before any community. I think I forgot to say my name, right? Sandrea Bradley, living here in Cottonwood. So I want to, in closing, smart meters, they are a threat to our health, to our safety. Some of them, many of them, not some, but many throughout the United States and Canada are burning homes because they're not even put in correctly. But even if they are put in correctly, the homes weren't. They were made for 60 hertz, and these take ridiculous amounts. So they're burning homes. So our personal freedom, because if you dig deep down the rabbit hole, you're going to see that these are spy machines to know exactly what you're doing, and a lot of it is for greed. Some of it's for control, some for greed, some to be able to sell our stuff to the next guy to be able to, you know, blah, 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 get us to buy more and blah, blah, blah. So our wallets, they have shown repeatedly, some people's bills have gone up over $300, $600, which infers that these meters obviously aren't accurate, but you will get another story from the utility side. But how can a family use that much electricity? It's impossible. And some of them are in the thousands. I mean, I've heard all stories. Okay, so almost there. So I have a dream that Cottonwood be a leader in keeping smart meters out of the Verde Valley. Firstly, educating our community of the many dangers and the varied dangers of it, because most people don't seem to know about it. They really covered it up well. Secondly, to see this council go the route of Sedona and opt out for this community. And I brought you a handout on that. You know, to support the smart meter opt out. And ultimately, my dream is, wouldn't it be wonderful if our little city of Cottonwood discovered a way to ban the smart meters from our community and stay true to the fact our name is named after cottonwood trees. These meters are likely to kill them or cause them bad health. So I appeal to you to put smart meters on your agenda and invite the Sedona Smart Meter Awareness Team to present their presentation to this council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm so sorry, I didn't know there were so many of you. I had handouts, but I went online and I only saw 7. So, yeah, I can do this.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks for the beautiful folder.
Well, yes.
I like purple.
It's my favorite color.
It's color coordinated, yes.
Transformation and spirituality, which we need to get these greedy guys involved in.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Elaine Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
State your name and where you're from, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Elaine Brown, and I live in the village of Oak Creek. I stopped by and saw you in January or December, I believe, and talked to you about smart meters at that time. I wanted to give you a little update on that. Back in January, I was just starting to meet with a group of people that eventually became Sedona Smart Meter Awareness. They called me in to talk with them because of my work opposing cell towers that are placed close to residents. And in June, the Sedona City Council sent a letter to the Corporation Commission opposing the fees and asking that the city be allowed to opt out. The Village of Oak Creek then requested a meeting and were given permission by the Big Park Council, and VOCA was going to host the meeting at the ballroom, and APS refused to meet with us. I will tell you, out of 6,000 residents in VOCA, we collectively pay $77,000 a year to have a meter reader read our meter. Well, if we all opt out of the smart meter, it will cost us $75 setup, $30 a month, $2.5 million a year just in the Village of Oak Creek for fees for not having a smart meter. They do pulse electromagnetic frequencies, microwave radiation into your wiring system, and they do pulses so they can read your usage. They might tell you it's only 15 minutes a day, but it actually only takes about 1/4000th of a second to do a reading, and in California, they're pulsing into people's homes 191,000 times a day. What happens when they do this is it takes like a cloud snapshot of your usage. When you open your microwave, start your oven, do your wash, take a shower, when you're working, when you have company, who's in your house, when you're not home, They can't guarantee that it won't be hacked into. So somebody might decide to come into your house when you're not home, or maybe they'll decide to come into your house when one person's home. I don't know how criminals think. But there's also the health aspect. If you have a baby sleeping on the other side of the wall where the meter is, there are going to be great possibilities of damage. If you have a pacemaker and you're standing a foot or two on the outside of your house when that meter is spiking, it can reset your pacemaker back to factory settings. This is discrimination to allow them to go in citywide, especially when it's been a global deployment and no one seems to know what it is. There are so many intelligent people that I've asked and they have no idea. I had no idea until November when I just came across an article that a resident wrote. Well, because the residents are doing so much work on this, the Corporation Commission has asked the Department of Health to do a study, which is going to take about a year. But in the meantime, they're allowing deployment. So Sedona has opposed it. Bisbee has asked for a moratorium. They've denied meeting with the Big Park Council, so they're going to be meeting next month to send a letter. But they shouldn't be allowed to be deployed until we find out that they're safe. They're non-UL approved. It's a global deployment that nobody knows about. If that doesn't speak to you right there, I don't know what does. But we don't deserve this. We don't deserve to have to live in a constant pulsing of microwave radiation because somebody wants to make a few bucks and collect our data and study us. I mean, we know when we're supposed to cut down on our electrical use when our bill goes up. We don't need somebody saying, Mary, if you don't cook your turkey at 5 o'clock on Thanksgiving, you could save 2 cents. Can we shut that off for you? And that's where we're headed. So anyway, I just want to thank you. Cottonwood is a great city. I watch you guys from a distance. You are doing amazing things. I love the things that you do for community. And you can join that and just ask for a halt because they're going to deploy here in December until your residents can find out and make an informed decision instead of just coming home and seeing it on their house and then wondering why they're not sleeping at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I need help with this name. Judy Iwata Smith. How bad did I do? Oh, good.
My name is Judy Iwata Smith, and thank you very much for giving me 5 minutes. Appreciate it. I am a Cottonwood resident, and I have had health challenges for over 8 years. I was diagnosed with a few things: Epstein-Barr virus, high levels of toxic metals, and Lyme's disease. My symptoms are chronic pain, fatigue, fever, skin disorders, unable to sleep, and I am getting better. I am happy about that. My medical doctor, my naturopathic doctor, has said to improve my health, one thing is to lower my usage on my cell phone, to stay away from all the cell towers, and to opt out on smart meters. Not only can I opt out at my home, and I'm encouraging my neighbors to, because my understanding is if my neighbors have smart meters, it's going to affect me because the waves go that far. The doctors have told me that anyone with a compromised immune system will suffer greatly with these environmental hidden dangers we cannot see. Others at high risk, of course, are our elderlies and our children and our babies. I ask if you will consider watching the movie Take Back Your Power. I do have a copy at home, and I would be more than happy to loan it to anybody who would like to view more of the facts and hear other personal stories. We do have a choice. We can opt out this whole town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Patricia Romer.
Hi, my name's Patrice Romer, and I've been a resident of Cottonwood. My mom and I grow Runyon since '87. I too want to speak about the smart meters. I have some personal business, but I think that this subject, since it's on the table, is much more important. I called APS yesterday to opt out for the smart meter, and I was told that our city is on the books to be installed next month. And these smart meters, they said, were going in October, November, and December for Cottonwood. I have the movie, Take Back Your Power. I'm willing to lend it to you, and I've also got a call in to the mayor, Diane, for her to watch it when she gets back. I want, if nothing more, the optimum is a community opt-out. If we need to go by way of public discussion with the small time we have, then I suggest, I need help, but I'm willing to devote my time to getting a place, maybe the auditorium in the high school was my thought, and putting a call out to Cottonwood Public to show this documentary. It is very well done. It's science. It's top people speaking. It's senators, Supreme Court people. It's not a shabby production at all, and it tells the truth. This is what we need to pay attention to, in my opinion, if we do not want to have sleepless nights, anxiety, depression, cancer, all the effects that basically living in a microwave would provide. So if there's any more that I can say to top that, this is really a well done, like I said, production, and I'm willing to share.
I can borrow this.
Pardon me?
I can borrow this.
You can borrow it,
And I'll pass it around to my colleagues, yes.
And then give it to Diane when she gets back. That's my hope. I think actually I might have time for my personal business. And that is that in '05, my mother and I came to the council meeting to be exempt from the sewer hookup because we were gifted with many trees when we bought the house, and now they're very large trees, and I have not been able to hook up to the sewer because of these trees. So since '05, I've been paying the sewer fees for something a service that I have not been using, and I'm here today to request an exemption from having to pay, since I am now of the age now that I am on a fixed income, and the $17 a month is a burden to my my well-being. So I'm requesting to be exempt from having to pay the sewer fees. I have the notes on that council meeting, if you would like them. Matt McLean gave them to me. They're in the books on the computer, and that's what I'd like to put on the docket for discussion at some point.
Okay.
Or to ask for.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lana Wyatt.
Lonnie.
Lonnie, can you get as close as...
Mind if I just leave?
But can you get as close as possible to the mic?
And I've never been bring it up to you do your voice. I guarantee you.
Thank you very much.
I am here tonight, And I don't know how to word it without being offensive, but spending an awful lot of time on all of our sidewalks all over town, where perhaps businesses have beautiful decorative rocks that all wash to the sidewalk when it rains, as well the rocks flying from the street itself onto the sidewalk. I personally have been tagged many times by rocks coming off of cars, along with running around town and picking up cigarette butts, which wasn't my first reason. I have been thrown into the right lane of traffic. I have been in ditches. I've been in trees and bushes. Saturday night, as I've lived here in Cottonwood at least 13 years, and at the Chevron station over on 260 and Fur, if you were coming directly out of the automatic car wash, I think we all know about the big huge pothole this deep. Saturday night, it caught my chair on the tire, threw me that way, threw my chair that way, and of course I had a full gas station of people watching, pointing, giggling, and I'm glad they had a wonderful time. This is over a 150-pound chair, as the fire chief who left helped us get it from the taxi out. I had to take it apart, laying on its side, the seat comes off, put it back together, go in. I'm not going to go into the rest because this is becoming a legal matter. But I don't like to, I've been in business 40 years. I don't appreciate somebody coming with a problem unless they've got some kind of an idea of a solution. I have only seen this, I didn't even know the city owned a street sweeper, cleaner. I've only seen it one time after the parade to get the horse poo. I don't know why we don't clean the streets, but beyond that, if there's, I think if we're running out of reasons per se for community service, if you've been fined but didn't rob the bank, and I am going to present this to Judge Lundy as community service. If I can get out there and get out of my chair, and these two men have known me 10 years when I walked, and with paper move the rocks and the dirt so I can simply get past it, then I will buy the push brooms and offer them to the city to be used by folks who, again, haven't robbed the bank as community service. Go out there and clean it up. Now, I started picking up the cigarettes by accident when I got a notice from American Spirit, but it's turned into, I've taken pictures of most sidewalks in town. I got thrown. There's a wonder, and I have pictures had I known, and I don't know if there's a way, and I am not an electrician by any stretch, to plug my phone into big screen and show the pictures that I have taken all over town. I've spoken to the owners of the businesses asking that that perhaps, please, we don't care, that's the city's problem. You know, it's everybody's problem. I'm here representing quite a group of disabled.
That's your time.
People in wheelchairs, and we want to clean it up, thanks. I almost got killed the other night, and I am bringing legal suit.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. The regular meetings of August 6th and 20th and September 3rd, 2013, and the special meetings of August 13th, 2013. Do I hear a motion, or are there any questions on it or corrections?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meetings of August 6th and 20th and September 3rd, 2013, and the special meeting of August 13th, 2013.
Second.
It's been motion been made by Mr. Pratt and seconded by Mr. Dowling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Did you want to say something, Mr. Piper? Okay, you didn't fill out a little form. That's why I didn't call on you.
Mayor, Council, coming Saturday, there's going to be an air show up at the Sedona Airport. They're bringing the vintage World War II planes up. I don't know how many, but I do know they're bringing the B-25 up, and it'll be up there for rides. But if you go up to ride in it, be sure and take a lot of money. But it's going to be a car show and an air show. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to backtrack just a minute. Does anybody else have anything to call to the public that didn't fill out a form? Okay, moving on. Unfinished business. Ordinance number 600, proposing an amendment to section 404.H.8.B of the city's zoning ordinance governing the allowable height of wireless communications facilities, second and final reading. Is that you, Morgan, or it's Mr. Attorney?
Madam Vice Mayor, members of the council, this is a second reading, and we have discussed this previously, so I won't belabor it any more than the council wants me to. But what staff is proposing is the zoning ordinance currently limits. The zoning ordinance currently limits cell towers to 60 feet without exception. What staff is proposing as we work on a more comprehensive rewrite of that part of the zoning ordinance is to provide a legislative mechanism by which the council, upon a certain showing on a case-by-case basis, could allow cell towers to exceed that 60-foot presumptive height limitation by up to 30 additional feet. That showing would mirror the showing that would have to be made, and if it were made in federal court, would entitle an applicant to a concession under local law and regulation, an accommodation, and it would depend upon the test is the least intrusive alternative to provide adequate cell coverage, and each carrier has that right under federal law. So we're not proposing that the council approve or entertain any specific development proposal tonight. What we're proposing is that you read and adopt this ordinance that will provide the mechanism by which an applicant could come in and offer proof that they would be entitled to exceed the 60-foot height limitation by up to 30 additional feet. I'd be happy to expound on that or answer any questions the council might have.
Council questions? Mr. Garrison.
I've got 3 issues with this wording and this revision to this ordinance. One is that it allows it in any zoning district other than R1 in Old Town I don't live in R1, and I don't really know that I want a 90-foot tower in my neighbor's backyard. That's a problem. If this is going to be allowed, I think it should be restricted to commercial or industrial, and maybe more so industrial areas than being allowed to be in backyards. Another item I have a problem with is it says the council may hold a separate hearing. That doesn't say we will hold a separate hearing to discuss the findings of the commission if the commission so chooses to allow this exception in. And the other item on here is it says we may impose reasonable conditions upon an approval that's done by the commission. It doesn't say that the council has the right to back that commission finding out. So those are three issues I have with the current writing as it stands.
Mr. Horton?
Well, I can address Councilman Garrison's third point. The way the ordinance or the way that the code change would be structured is that the Planning and Zoning Commission would serve in an advisory capacity only, which is why the way it's written, the council has the opportunity to call for a separate, because originally the evidentiary presentation is made to the commission, which would then make findings and a recommendation to you. At that point, all the options are on the table. You make the final decision. It's not a decision that's appealed to you. It's not even a decision. It's a recommendation from the commission to you. At that point, you could deny, you could approve with stipulations, or you could call for the evidence to be represented to you. Staff's thinking about that was we wanted to maximize the council's options, but we also didn't want to write the Planning and Zoning Commission, which has the expertise and the resources to actually hear the matter in the first instance. We didn't want to write them out of the process either.
Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, first of all, I do appreciate the fact that it says the Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing, so we'll at least have a public hearing. But I must agree with Councilmember Garrison. I would hate to see cell towers in the backyard. I'd like the zoning restrictions be to commercial and industrial areas. And if I am to be, I guess, a honest representative of our citizens, I would have to say this really concerns me. I've gotten a lot of comments in the last week or so and a lot of emails about people who are a little worried about this and a little concerned. And one of the concerns is health, another concern is aesthetics, of course. And we are getting rid of the slag heap to replace it with a 90-foot tower. So I would probably like to make this as difficult as possible, whether I agree or not, at least representing the people who I represent, you know, speaking for the people who I represent. 100% of the people who have contacted me have said, find a way to stop this, and I've probably had 25 different people either talk to me or contact me. So these are the citizens speaking, and I appreciate the fact that they do contact me and tell me how they feel about things.
Anyone else on the council? Mr. Howard?
Well, first of all, the tower is going to look like a tree. So maybe. I think aesthetically.
Maybe.
Well, that's what's reported in this report here.
Well, it can look like a tree. It doesn't say. I mean, we're not discussing an actual permit.
If you let me finish, you know, that'd be good. And those are probably part of the things that the council can control if and when it comes before the council. You know, I believe what legal counsel is trying to do is keep us in a good legal footing here to avoid any kind of litigation that would be extremely extensive. We're no way giving our authority away. You know, the planning and zoning commissions are giving a recommendation, you know, after they've reviewed information. So there's no way we're giving anything away. So as far as that goes, I don't have a problem with putting it in your industrial commercial areas. That seems to work well. Well, for the moment, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Alinsky.
If they can come up with findings, though, that show that it would be more advantageous to them in terms of providing better coverage, have it in a residential area, wouldn't they be able to circumvent the city process and go directly to the feds to have it placed in that area, regardless of what we say here on this council?
Well, they would have that option. Now, litigation in federal court is time-consuming, expensive, uncertain, and something all parties, including the city and any applicant, would be well advised to avoid, and I think everybody wants to avoid it. It's a last resort. Right. This provides a pressure relief valve, if you will, in the city's code that will allow an applicant to make a showing. Right now, during the first reading, Councilman Garrison described what we'd be doing here as opening a door. I thought about that analogy a little more after the meeting, and I think what we're doing more is placing a door that's closed and locked in place of a wall. Right now there's a wall, and there's no way for the city to say yes, even in a case where the council wants to. What the intent of this language is, and we can discuss whether I succeeded in that, but the intent is to provide you an opportunity to be able to say yes in a particular case, on a particular showing, after staff has vetted it, after the city's RF expert has vetted it, after the Planning and Zoning Commission has vetted it, and then finally after this council has vetted it. None of that has happened. There's no particular proposal on the table yet, obviously, under this mechanism, because the mechanism isn't in place yet.
Well, I'll just say I feel comfortable with the way that this ordinance is written. I'm not comfortable with, cell phones in my backyard, or cell phone towers in my backyard. But I think, we still have the option to view, to review every application that comes forward. So, like Mr. Hodeggy said, it's, we're still the buck stops here, I guess, in terms of any kind of application that comes forward. I think that what you're attempting to do is just make sure that keep us out of legal hot water with the federal government. I think that this ordinance does exactly that, and we'll just have to take each application as it comes forward and decide as a council, is this the best fit? Are there other options? What are our options?
Mr. Garrison.
A couple more things. One thing is this is written specifically for towers, and I just really have a hard time seeing a point where the council is going to come looking for a way to put in a 90-foot tower in this community under its own accord. The other issue I have is, what's the benefit to the city other than staying out of a legal issue? What's the benefit to us to have this tower in our community that we're not already getting as it stands now? And we're already having service, we're already getting service, we're already served well as far as I'm concerned, without having to start placing these things around. And this, just go back to my analogy, opens the door to allowing these to come forward. And I said door, not floodgate, but you never know how things go. Once one person gets a permit, then everybody else is going to start pulling them. And I guess my last question for you is, how many other communities in our area have allowed their ordinances to be changed specifically for this, for cell phone towers or radio towers?
I think I'd like to defer to Barron on, I think she's been doing the research on other communities and what they're doing. I think what we're finding is that our ordinance is more restrictive and doesn't have it. Other communities allow taller towers either as a matter of right, or there's certainly the ability to put them in. If we keep the status quo, the three things could happen. And remember, I need to reiterate, there's no particular development proposal, there's no 90-foot tower that is permitted by adopting this ordinance. It just gives you the opportunity to say yes to it, where you don't have that opportunity right now. If the council doesn't change the code, the applicant comes forward or continues, and there was an application that led to the discussion that led to this proposal. I'm reasonably confident that proposal will come back to you regardless of what happens here tonight. Three things could happen as I see it. the applicant could accept the city council's or the city's decision and work within the existing structure. And it has made a representation to us, and maybe this is true, and maybe they'll go back and sharpen their pencils, that they will need multiple towers in other locations to take the place of a single 90-foot tower. They've told us they would need 4 towers to meet the same coverage requirements that they've identified. They might be able to pursue that under the current code. They are entitled to establish towers up to 60 feet in height. So the city may wind up seeing more shorter towers. The city may wind up seeing a single shorter tower. The city may wind up being served with a federal lawsuit under the Federal Telecommunications Act, and the showing would have to be made by the applicant. They have to make an initial showing that they have a coverage gap, and what they proposed was the least intrusive alternative to meeting that gap, and then the burden, and it's a heavy one, would be on the city to establish that that they could have met their needs without the accommodation from the city.
Yeah.
And actually, the applicant and its counsel are here tonight, and I think they'd be happy to address anything else that I know.
Mr. Dowling has a question.
Just a couple of little quickies. So this could potentially lead to a large expenditure of taxpayer dollars in order to not put in a tower, or to attempt to delay the installation of a tower that would be placed at some point.
Sure. You mean if
it gets to the point of a federal case, and we have to try and argue against the case from a national carrier, we're in court spending money. Everybody in the city is basically spending their taxpayer dollars to defend against that.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess my other, I guess I would just, out of curiosity, who here has a cell phone? I think we all use them, and I know that nobody likes the idea of a tower. Nobody wants it in their backyard. People usually don't want it in their area, but unfortunately, unless we all decide to stop using our cell phones, they are probably going to be an inconvenient fact of life, and the best we can do is manage it to be the least inconvenient possible.
And intrusive, yeah. Okay, just
Point well
hold
taken.
on. I've got a couple of people before we go any further that want to speak. Elaine Brown.
Good evening. I'm Elaine Brown. I live in the village of Oak Creek. I do have my cell phone here. It's in a pouch that has silver fabric, and so it doesn't attract the microwave radiation. It's on airplane mode, so I'm not constantly getting hit. Men use it in their front pocket, so that doesn't wear away their pelvic bone when they wear it in their back pocket. So there are ways to protect. The first thing you have to do is just calm down, because when I started looking into this, it was because they had placed a large upgrade and expansion in my neighborhood on a stealth cell tower. There were 2 antennas hidden. They came in and the scaffolding went up. I said, oh, they're not painting the building because the painters aren't showing. I knew the tower was there, but not before I had purchased my home. And they came in and put up 12 or more antennas, okay, and then they hid it behind a shield. Went against some of our ordinances, and then subsequently didn't measure it to see if it falls within the guidelines, because I tried to get those measurements, and now I have to go to the FCC, who does not take phone calls, and I have to file a complaint to try to find out what the measurement is. So 70% of towers do not get measured, and they don't get taken care of properly. So I'll start with that. I found out when I started looking into the rules and regulations about placing cell towers, and it was a very sad day for me as an American, because when I went to oppose it, I found out that there was a congressional act that forbidded me from speaking about health or environment. and that was the Section 704 of the Telecommunications Act. In that act, it gives you a lot of information. First of all, they passed that thing in '96 to start competition between the carriers, and then they had a lot of unintended consequences. They started putting them up everywhere, and there was a lot of money to be made. The American people own the electromagnetic spectrum, and it was sold off in pieces, auctioned off to businesses. The money deposited into the U.S. Treasury, which I'm sure we'll all be seeing at some point. And then they started charging us billions of dollars to use it. But they didn't do studies. They just put them up everywhere. Now, in the beginning, they were putting them up in commercial and industrial areas, which I believe the company that you're speaking with specializes in, commercial and industrial. I have no problem with cell towers. I know that we do use the power, but there are things that are happening now that were unintended. They're trying to remove the copper wiring in the traditional landlines, because there's about $600 million worth of copper there. And they're trying to force us to put these even in our home phones. Some people are sensitive to it. It's definitely, there are studies done internationally where there are cancer clusters when people live near towers. The Sutro Tower in San Francisco, there's another study in San Diego University where people have died that were in a specific room near a tower. So there are things that aren't being addressed by the FCC, the non-thermal microwave radiation, and they're really finding that internationally that does affect us, everyone. You could be with a person that's sensitive and can't be in the room, but if you have a blood test done with a person that has no symptoms, their blood test will come out the same. So the sensitive people are the canaries in the coal mine right now. So anyway, I started to look at it from how can I oppose this without being able to speak about the things that are most important to me. So I started reading it. Now you have to read this thing and you have to study it and you have to read it again and you have to understand it and you have to not be afraid to speak about it, because it's very one-sided, and the FCC is taking comments right now to study the non-thermal. So there's a lot going on that is good. But be very clear that when I was opposing a tower in Yavapai County, the gentleman that was representing AT&T said that they felt that they needed a tower every 2 miles here. So in a 2-mile square, that would be 4 towers, just, you know, as an example. But also, when you do allow a tower to come in that's 90 feet, you will have to allow other like businesses to have the same thing. So you won't be sitting at a planning and zoning meeting chatting about whether you should let this one or that one. By right, once you let it in, the other companies, and on an average there's 4 more that'll come up after, will be entitled to have the same thing. So you will see more than one 90-foot tower in your city. The only thing that you do have to protect you is distance. That's it. Until the laws are changed, until enough people oppose, distance is your only protection. So you must let them spend more money than a pine tree cost, put it somewhere higher on a hill, and keep people safe. Because within a 1,500-foot radius, you have a higher likelihood of becoming very ill from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Paxia.
Vice Mayor and Council, my name is Alan Paxia. I'm a Cottonwood resident. I'm a commercial pilot. I've retired here in Cottonwood. I've been involved with, as an elected airport commissioner in my previous community in Washington State for 15 years, and I know airports. And my concern is I am opposed to the tower on two fronts. One is the 90-foot especially in a commercial area such as our airport area, which is a commercial area. And the other thing is that I read in the paper that they're talking about putting the tower in the VFW, which is near the airport. In my years of flying, I've personally witnessed 2 instances where airplanes, one taking off, lost power, and turned around, came back to the airport, safely landed, but barely scraped the top of a hangar. A second incident happened a couple years ago where I was following an airplane into Deer Valley, and he lost power and he crashed just inside the airport property into a building. The airplane burned and the pilot was killed. Towers near airports just don't make sense to me. And I would encourage you to not limit yourself, not take away capability and rights that you have today, but keep your ordinance as it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Greg Lake.
Madam Vice Mayor, members of the council, my name is Greg Lake. I'm an attorney. I represent Capital Telecom. We're here working with Mr. Horton, members of the planning staff, and coming together with what we believe is a solution and a tool for this city council. Now, I know there are people here in this audience today that don't like what I have to say. I'm used to that. I'm okay with that. But what I want to help you understand is the telecom companies and the town are aligned in 3 important ways. First, some people here may disagree with me, but I believe by and large, most everyone in this community wants good voice and data wireless coverage. Number 2, I believe this community and AT&T want that good voice and data coverage with the least number of possible sites that have to be built. And number 3, the wireless carriers and this community want to build those sites in areas that are the least intrusive on your constituents, which are also our customers. What we're trying to accomplish today, and what this tool, this ordinance will provide you, is a way to reduce the number of towers that get built in this community. A 90-foot tower, we are not discussing a specific site, but if you raise a tower, one tower incrementally, you will reduce by a quantum factor the number of towers, smaller towers that must get built throughout the rest of the community. We have the obligation to come before you and present the specifics. You have the right for a specific site. You have the right to decide whether or not we meet that obligation. You're not giving up that power, you're not giving up that right. What you are doing, as Mr. Horton described, is you are aligning your ordinance consistent with federal law, which I think is a very wise move. And I'd be happy to ask any questions or answer any questions.
Council? Okay. I would like to, if there's no questions, I'd like to call Barron up and have her tell us what her findings were. Plus, the one lady said that if one tower goes up, there'll be 4 more carriers that have the right to put a tower up if we put one up on a property. So I was curious about that one. But that's probably a Steve Horton question.
It is, Madam Vice Mayor.
But go ahead and tell us what.
Okay. First of all, our research is still going on, and we are not ready to answer these questions. So we are working on the ordinance, and we'll come up with the results back to you. And ordinance, did you answer? Or once we have the ordinance, then we have to apply it for everyone.
Okay, thank you. And now, thank you, Barron.
And to the comment that 1 equals 4, I respectfully disagree with that. Federal law prohibits unreasonable discrimination. It does not entitle identical treatment of carriers. It entitles carriers to provide adequate coverage within their service areas, even if this ordinance passes. And I think I've inferred this to the applicant. First of all, staff is not a stalking horse for Mr. Lake, AT&T, Capital Telecom. We are trying to empower the council to be able to make the decisions it would want and would otherwise make if it had the ability to do that. Passing this ordinance, as challenging as it appears to be, is the easy part. If this ordinance passes, then the applicant, any applicant, will have to make an evidentiary showing to the satisfaction of all the bodies and people I described earlier, and finally to the satisfaction of this council. And we will be scrutinizing that, and this council will be able to ask as many tough questions as it wants to, and if it's not satisfied, it still has the option to say no.
Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, after hearing everything and hearing Mr. Yadagi's point about avoiding litigation, it seems to me this ordinance might be a good tool for the city to use. I could still be opposed to the towers, but at least it gives us a mechanism to have a negotiation, discussion, avoid litigation, and Mr. Yadagi, you make a good point. My one remaining concern is the zoning. But I still have concerns about huge towers sometimes, but if they look like Christmas trees, they look like Christmas trees.
Okay. And to that, Madam Vice Mayor, if I might, to that point, I think the applicant probably has heard, and I think it will hear through staff, that council's view of any particular proposal will be strongly colored and informed by whether or not the project is proposed in even a high-density residential area or anything other than a commercial or industrial place. Site matters, and that's fine. And under the jurisprudence, under the case law, under FTCA, place matters. And that's none of this, either federal law or nothing you're doing tonight, deprives you of the ability to look at the proposal in relation to the particular site it's being proposed for.
That's one of the reasons I think it's not a bad idea.
Mr. Bartosh.
I'm not signing off.
Madam Vice Member, council members, I think somebody asked a question about who else is doing this in the area, and I know I've seen an ordinance that is very similar to these parameters that Sedona has. I think if you recall in the paper recently, Clarkdale just considered such an ordinance, and I believe if it hasn't passed, it's close to being passed and enacted. So. Okay.
If there's anything new that hasn't already been brought up, then we can go ahead and take more questions. But if it's already been said, the horse is almost dead. We've been beating it for quite a while. So if, is there something new that hasn't already been said?
I just need to say it. Can I just say one thing very shortly?
Very, very quickly, because we're...
I want to say...
You need to get up to the mic.
That, again, through Patrice Romer, Cottonwood resident, that I don't care what the tower looks like, we have to consider the health ramifications.
Okay.
Period.
Thank you. Okay, council.
May I make a motion?
Where do we... Yes, go ahead, Mr. Howdicky.
I'd like to make the motion that move to approve ordinance number 600.
Second.
Mr. Howdicky made the motion. Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. 2 no votes and 1, 2, 3, 4 yes votes. So the motion passes. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 600.
Ordinance number 600, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, relating to the permissible height of wireless communication facilities and amending section 404.H.8 point B of the city's zoning ordinance. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. First one is payment of the final installment for cost-sharing arrangement with the town of Camp Verde for the SR 260 lobbyist. Number 2, resolution number 2717, approving a grant agreement with the United States of America, acting through the Federal Aviation, FAA, for the installation of an automated weather observation system, AWOS, at the Cottonwood Airport. Number 3, approval of a contract with Woodruff Construction for installation of an automated weather observation station at the Cottonwood Airport. Number 4, consideration of a person transfer liquor license application for Lisa G. Young, applicant for My Dobro, located at 1100 Highway 260. Number 5, consent with assignment of tenant rights for Lot 133 of Cottonwood Air Park Track 1, Parts B and C from Backus Family Investments, LLC, to First Savings Bank, custodian for Larry Conifer, IRA. Number 6, consideration of a person transfer liquor license application for Thomas E. Olivas, applicant for Olivas Mexican Restaurant located at 301 West Highway 89A. Does any council member want to pull any of these off the consent agenda?
Madam Vice Mayor, I just want to point out that item 6 is actually a new liquor license, not a person transfer.
Oh, okay, so it's new liquor license? Okay, so should I reread it? With consideration of a new liquor license application for Thomas E. Olivas, applicant for Olivas Restaurant, Mexican Restaurant located at 301 West 89A. Anybody want to pull any of these? Anyone in the audience want to pull any of the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Pratt, seconded by Mr. Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Consent agenda's been approved. New business. The following. Oops, you've got to read some stuff, don't you? Please read resolution number 2717 by title only.
Resolution number 2717, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving a grant agreement with the United States of America, acting through the Federal Aviation Administration for the installation of an automated weather observation system at the Cottonwood Airport. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I was on a roll. I just had to put the brakes on, huh? Next on the agenda, new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Number 1 is consideration of a request from Sedona Verde Valley Pride for waiver section 9.12.030.a alcoholic beverages of the municipal code in order to serve and sell beer and wine at the Old Town Activity Park for an event scheduled for September 28, 2013. Who's got this one?
I can take it, I guess. Basically, the Sedona Verde Valley Pride has put in a liquor license to serve alcohol at the kids' park for their event, and they would seek an ordinance or a waiver of the ordinance of section
9.12.030A.
Yep, 9.12030.
Madam Vice Mayor, council members, as I think the council's aware, this is the second year of this event. We had for the first time last year at the activity park behind City Hall. It was a very well attended event, very well behaved crowd, and just for the council's benefit of the history on this.
I'll make a motion if nobody objects.
Okay.
Unless somebody else. Okay. I move to waive section 9.12.030A of the Municipal Code to allow Sedona Verde Valley Pride to serve and sell beer and wine at the Old Town Activity Park for an event scheduled for September 28th, 2013, subject to approval by the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Dowling, seconded by Mr. Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Number 2, special event liquor license application submitted by Gregory Lucky, applicant for Sedona Pride, for an event scheduled for September 28, 2013 at the Old Town Activity Park.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Considering that we just passed the other one, this one does seem like a no-brainer.
No, I knew we wouldn't get through the night without that one.
Not at least one time.
You going to make a motion?
Yeah. I move to approve the special event liquor license application submitted by Gregory Lucky, applicant for Sedona Pride, for an event scheduled for September 28th, 2013 at the Old Town Activity Park.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pratt, seconded by Mr. Dowling. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Number 3, approval of a new information technology technician number 2 position, range 21, and the elimination of an accounting specialist 2 position, range 18, under the Administrative Services Department.
Yes, Vice Mayor and Council. As you may recall, we had an opening when Carol Brown, our budget analyst, fell ill. We had to terminate her. She was on long-term disability, and we had to replace that position. We were lucky enough to have Helen Bartle step up and accept the position. That left us with an opening as a utility bookkeeper. And with the new ERP system, that's the Enterprise Resource Planning System, coming online in the next few months, a lot of the work that she's done will be alleviated because the system will be able to produce a lot of reporting that we currently have a lot of manual labor involved in. So we're looking to eliminate her position. At the same time, we're looking at the new communication center coming online in the next 12 to 18 months, and all the resources that are going to be necessary just to bring that system online and also to maintain that system. Our thoughts are to go ahead and eliminate the utility billing clerk, which was Helen Bartle's position, and by bringing on another IT person to assist Brent and Tyler, who are currently overworked, we'll be able to also eliminate some of the service contracts that we have out there with the police department. Currently, we have a contractor that we're currently using quite heavily over at the communications center, and our idea is to reduce his workload. At the same time, that'll reduce the cost. Obviously, our contractors are paid a lot more handsomely than our employees are, and we've been real fortunate to bring on quality IT people over the last few years to take up a lot of those resources. They kind of have paid for themselves our outside contractors, and we're looking to do the same by bringing on one more IT person and start working with both Tyler and the new IT person and having Brent oversee both of them. Not that they will be specifically for the police department, but we are going to start doing some cross-training between police and other general government facilities. Currently, the range 19 that we have available, Helen was already earning almost at the top range of that position, so we're looking at an entry level that will probably net out the initial cost. So we're looking at that not costing us any money at all, but the savings we can that we can acquire just by reducing our service contractors can be quite substantial.
Madam Vice Mayor, I would just add that, one, I really commend Rudy for taking this step, and number 2 is I'm very proud of the steps we've made in terms of integrating more technology into the city to make us even more efficient. However, one of the concerns I routinely hear from our staff is we need more IT help. So I think this is a good investment. And again, my hat's off for Rudy for coming up with a way that we can use existing personnel, and probably in the long run, by cutting down on contract staff, we actually end up saving some money.
Yeah. Mr. Linsky.
Does this mean at some point somebody's going to make the Cottonwood website look nice?
We're going to do what, sir?
We're going to make the Cottonwood website look like nice, like the rest of it.
Currently, we're still waiting for the marketing aspect, or what is it?
Branding.
The branding to be, we've kind of sidelined that. All we're doing is maintaining. Once the branding, part of the, I think the branding process is to bring up a new updated website.
Okay.
And we're hoping it'll be a real knockout.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care much for that, but I get a lot of feedback on the Cottonwood website, and
I think it's great.
It's great for 19 something something.
Y'all can carry this on outside. Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I can personally attest to the fact that, yes, the IT people are overworked. One of them I use privately to work on my computers, and he's wiped out. And the other thing is it's a win-win because we save money by not using the contractors. So this really is a smart move. And along with the city manager, even these things, when you think of the amount of money this has saved and the amount of paper it saved, it's nice to see us moving into the contemporary world more and more.
Any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve a new information technology technician 2 position, range 21, and eliminate the accounting specialist 2 position, range 18.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Alinsky and seconded by Mr. Pratt. All in favor? Or
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none? Good.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Next is claims and adjustments. Do I hear a motion to pay the
Move we
claims?
pay the claims and adjustments?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Mr. Dowling, seconded by Mr. Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? The claims, the bills are paid, and I move to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.